So it's 8:05 and we want to start off. I want to take this opportunity to welcome us again tonight for our third day of our series on trauma healing. And we have our speaker, Dr. Beatrice Maingi, who has been taking us through this series. And I want tonight to also invite engagements because we haven't really engaged on questions or concerns and areas of clarification that we may want to hear from our facilitator. And therefore, I'm just requesting us, prepare some questions tonight so that once she's done with her first bit of presentation, we can ask those questions. And we also have an opportunity to write on the chat section. You can just write a question. Let her get some feedback from us because it's important for us to engage. That is why we call this engagement. It's not a facilitation or a lecture sort of. It's an engagement where you also engage with the facilitator on any clarification that you may need to hear or get from her. So karibuni sana, and may God bless us as we carry on with our discussion tonight. And I want us to start with a word of prayer, and then we just allow Daktari to carry on from here. So, Almighty Father, in the name of Jesus, we bless your name and we thank you, Father, for the opportunity that you've given us to be in this virtual engagement tonight. We are grateful, Lord, for the insights that we have been getting and learning. And it's our prayer that even as we engage tonight, Lord, we shall learn more and we shall be better people who understand ourselves better and even understand others. We therefore ask that you may bless us, also bless our speaker as she takes us through. And we ask that, Lord, you may guide us in everything. And this is our prayer of faith in Jesus' name. So karibuni sana once again, and I want to take this opportunity now to welcome our facilitator, Dr. Beatrice Maingi, as she takes us through her facilitation for tonight. Karibu sana Daktari, and God bless you.
Okay. So thank you very much, Evangelist, and thank you, members. Like I always say, I never take it for granted, even for the opportunity to share this information. And someone once said that as you teach, you learn. So even as I share this information, I can assure you that I'm learning because I believe that all of us are on a journey of making ourselves better, improving our lives. And someone also said that it is never too late to do the right thing. It is never too late, and also history can start anywhere. So it doesn't matter how old we are or how young we are. When we discover the truth, the only thing we can do is apply it in our lives and move on. So I want to believe that all of us are on a journey, regardless of how our childhood experience was, because it is not good to assume that every one of us has suffered these childhood wounds that we are talking about. Maybe some of us had a very nice childhood, but what about the few of us who may have gone through those childhood experiences and we find that it is interfering with our lives today? And because we are doing this presentation among members of the church, I thought it is good we also bring in the perspective of the Bible, because even when we think about taking the power back so that our experiences are not holding us back, we must not also forget the place of God, because He is above all. It's not that when we heal from our childhood experiences, then we become self-sufficient. We still need God. And also, I was looking at the Bible and I saw that the idea of dropping a yoke is there in the Bible. In the book of Genesis 27, verse 40, God told Isaac that you will live by your sword, by the sword of your brother, and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake off your yoke. You will shake off the yoke from your neck. So what that means is that we can live with these childhood traumas for a long time, But when we stumble on the truth, like we have done today, then we can drop that yoke from our neck and break free from these childhood experiences. And maybe just a question to all of us. What do you think your future self would want? Is it for you to continue being, immobilized by your childhood experiences? Is it for you to remain stagnant because of the experiences that you went through? Is it for you to have the quality of your life compromised by your past experiences? Or would your future self want you to be free and to live life in the here and now? I want to believe that my future self would want my past experiences not to interfere with my present life, so that I can live life to the full. I believe that is what all of us would want, so that the experiences that we went through in the past that may be sabotaging our lives right now, we may put them behind us. And also as parents, then we can become intentional in the way that we raise our children. So I thought it is good for us to look at that perspective, because God said that you can drop the yoke. When you get tired of it, you can drop it and be free. And so maybe it is time for us to drop that yoke of our past experiences and live life in the present, in the here and now, and also so that we can show up for ourselves. So as we begin our presentation this evening, and thank you, Evangelist, because you have raised a very important issue that we have not been responding to questions, and it is good that we also get time to respond to some of the questions. So today, like I mentioned last time, we want to ask ourselves, now that we have said, or we have located maybe some of the experiences that we can actually relate to. And this is just a slide that serves as a recap of what we discussed last time. And we said, because of the different experiences, you will have those who are playful, those who are spoiled, those who are neglected, abandoned, fearful, unbonded, discounted, the wise child, and then to where we are getting a wise natural. And so if this is the kind of wounds that some of us may have gone through, so the only thing that we can do is to reparent that child all over again. And what do I mean by this? It is being a parent to ourselves. And so the process that I want us to discuss this evening is the process of reparenting. If you remember what we said, that inside of us, there is a child. Some may be wounded, some may be not. But for those who are wounded, then the only thing we can do to make them, heal from those childhood experiences is to do what we are calling the reparenting process, meaning that we are raising that child all over again, meaning that we are taking a step back and taking hold of that child from where they were immobilized by the experiences that they went through. And then we can give them an assurance and walk them to where we are, so that we can live life in a synchronized manner. So when you talk about reparenting, we are talking about being a parent to yourself and providing yourself the nurturing, the affection, the recognition that you need to heal your inner child. And it involves giving yourself the guidance, the direction, and self-discipline needed to accept personal responsibility for your own life. So what we are saying is that you become the parent to that inner child. And one interesting thing that I have realized as I've been doing this series is that there is no one who can reparent the child that is within you. It is an inside job. It is a personal responsibility, so that you give yourself that which you thought your parents would have given you, but they never did. If there was lack of affirmation, if there was abandonment, if there was neglect, then we are talking about self-care. We are talking about showing up for yourself and giving yourself that which you may not have been given. And we are talking about letting go of self-pity. So you're not looking back with helplessness, with the way I went through all this. You are letting go of that, the fact that you are neglected or abused as a child, and taking charge of your life and ceasing to look to others to nurture, affirm, or make you feel good. That's what we mean by re-parenting. That we are saying that we are no longer saying that I wish this never happened. I wish they never neglected me. I wish they never abandoned me. We are saying now that I was abandoned, now that I was neglected, now that I went through all these experiences, how do I move forward? So we are also talking about some children have gone through shame and guilt, like we discussed last time. And so we are talking about overcoming that shame and guilt, looking at it in the face and saying, yes, I went through this, but how do I move forward? And you're also, overcoming the unfortunate history of your childhood, your adolescence, or your young adulthood. And the word that I want to put across here is about rewriting history. Rewriting history. We are talking about telling yourself a different story. Because maybe you may have grown up hearing, you will never make it. You can't do this. Look at you. Why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? So that is what they said. And the question we are asking ourselves this evening, just like Jesus did when he asked the disciples, who do people say I am? And they all had different answers. And then he put the question back to them, but who do you say that I am? So tonight we are saying, yes, they said you can't make it. They said you will never go beyond Form 4. But the question is, what are you saying? So the whole question about what we are discussing in this series is changing the story, telling yourself a different narrative. They said, I'll not make it, but I'll give it my best. I will do the best that I can. So you're taking power back. You are dropping that yoke and, re-parenting yourself all over again. We're also talking about accepting yourself the way you are. Because you remember we said that childhood wounds affect our self-esteem, meaning that you find yourself many times comparing yourself with other people and wondering, why can't I be like so and so? I wish I was raised in a stable family where there were both parents, or I wish I was raised in a family where there was no violence and all that. But then that is how you were raised, and there are some things about our past that we cannot change. We cannot go back in history and change those things. So we are talking about accepting yourself the way you are in an unconditional way. That yes, I'm the one who was raised by that single mother. I am the one whose father walked away from us. I am the one who was beaten. I'm the one who was abused. But now, how do I move forward? So you accept yourself in an unconditional way. Because when we look back with regret, we get immobilized. We are not able to move forward. So reparenting means you accept yourself the way you are. Just like, you see, for us parents, when you give birth to a child, you accept them the way they are. It doesn't matter whether in the world there are some children that are brown and yours is dark. You hold yours and defend yours and breastfeed yours because that is your child. So we are saying, as we reparent ourselves, we are loving ourselves the way we are, with our wounds, with our scars, and now moving forward and asking, how do we then move forward and heal these wounds? So we are saying, allowing yourself to become an independent person. How do you become independent? By dropping that yoke of your past experiences and saying, moving forward, I am not depending on that mother, that father who let me down. I am depending on me. Of course, with God above, being an independent person and creating a bond between the adult you and the inner child. And that's why I said one thing that you can do actually to unearth some of these experiences is to write a letter to yourself. Write a letter to your past self, that child. Write that letter and then acknowledge all those experiences that you went through, and then give that child an affirmation that yes, they did this to you, but you know what? This is not going to happen again. I will defend you. I will stand with you. I will not allow you to do, to abandon you again. So as we talk about re-parenting, maybe some of us may be asking, how can I tell whether I need to go through this process? What are some of the symptoms? I'm calling them symptoms for lack of a better word. But what are some of the things that we can look out for to know that indeed we need to do this reparenting? And remember, I said, though we are talking about childhood experiences, you may find that even me, who is in my 50s, I am still struggling with memories of the past. And maybe there are times when I have sabotaged my chances because maybe I felt fearful. Maybe I felt I didn't have confidence, maybe to ask for something because the child within is pulling me back. So we are saying this is for every one of us, doing an introspection, looking at your life and saying, which are some of the areas that I need to work on. Because what I need to mention here is that as long as we have not acknowledged and dealt with these childhood experiences, we engage in what we call self-sabotage. And maybe in our next presentation, we'll be looking at ways in which we sabotage ourselves and we minimize our chances of success because of some decisions that we make. And when you look at some of these decisions, you can tell that they are coming from somewhere. They are coming from low self-esteem. They are coming from a sense of low self-worth. They are coming from, and all these, you can trace it back to maybe some of the experiences that we have had in our lives. So what are some of these symptoms? One, lacking in self-confidence in interpersonal relationships. And we are talking about relationships at work, at home, in the community. You just find that you don't have confidence. Even when maybe you have a meeting and you're a senior person, you feel there are things you want to say, but you don't have the courage, you don't have the confidence, to say them. Even at work, at home, you don't have the confidence. As a married woman or as a married man, you find that sometimes you're even afraid to ask for something from your spouse. You are fearful. It is like you're not equal. It is like one person is an adult, the other one is a child. That's what we mean, lacking self-confidence. Even in the community, you are a person who can do major things in the community, but lack of confidence and lack of self-esteem, it pulls you back. That is one of the symptoms. Inability also to believe that you deserve good things in life. Feelings of shame and guilt about your past. And we mentioned that last time, that sometimes you feel you don't deserve good things, even when you're in a wedding or somewhere and you find that there are guests coming. You are the first person to surrender your seat. You are the first person to go and sit outside in the scorching sun because you have surrendered your place, feeling like you don't deserve. Even when someone takes you maybe to a hotel and they want to buy you a meal, you want to look for the cheapest because you feel you don't deserve. Apana, wacha tu mimi nikunywe chai na mandazi. And someone wants to buy you a meal. Those feelings of feeling like you don't deserve good things. Also, inability to have self-forgiveness for all your real and perceived faults, mistakes or failures in the past. You keep ruminating when you make a mistake. I wish I didn't do that. What did people say? What are they saying? You find it difficult to forgive yourself. You keep thinking about it. It keeps disturbing you. You keep apologizing, because, sometimes we have to tell ourselves, when is it time to stop? Also, dependence on others to approve you and fear of rejection from others. That when you do something, you must keep asking, how did it go? Do you think I'm smart? Is this dress too tight? How do you external validation? But you will find that when you are able to overcome these childhood experiences, you can have what we call internal validation. That if I look at myself in the mirror and I think I'm smartly dressed, that is all I need. If someone else gives me a compliment, that is an added advantage. Thank you. external validation. You can never have enough of it. Need to please others and avoid conflict at all costs. You know, you become a people pleaser. You become a yes person. You know, even when you have things to do and someone tells you, take me to this place, you know, you don't know how to say no. It feels, you know, difficult for you to say no to anything, because you don't want people to dislike you. You don't want people to neglect you. And I listened to Reverend last Sunday when he was preaching. Actually, that is the sermon that I listened to. And he talked about people who are lost in busyness, being busy doing this, doing that, you know, pleasing just to look for validation, to look for affirmation, to please others. And we say that if you're doing it at the expense of your own, you know, health, or your own family, or your own project, then that is a problem. So that is also another symptom of a child that is looking for a way to escape. So another symptom, waiting or wanting someone to nurture and care for you to make up for the absence of nurturance in past life. You find that, you know, there are people who are not able to complete anything. It's like you have to wait for someone to come and help you finish. You're waiting to be nurtured. And we can call this not taking responsibility, even for the responsibilities that are squarely yours. So you find that you don't complete your projects, you don't complete, you know, your work, because you're waiting for someone to just come and give you a push. Not being capable of exercising self-control. And this is a big one. Remember, we are talking about reparenting. Self-control is a big word in reparenting, because in reparenting, then you are the one who will draw the red line. You know, as parents, even when our children are playing with other kids in the estate, when it gets to lunchtime, you go outside and tell them, hey, that is enough, come back to the house. Or when the kids are shouting in the house, maybe they are playing, you tell them, hey, keep it down. You know, you are controlling them as a parent. So in reparenting, then you're the one who tells yourself when it is time to stop. When we lack self-control, then we become self-indulgent. And this is where even the issue of addiction, you know, substance abuse comes in, because people go drinking and they don't know when to stop. They can't tell themselves when to stop. You know, a child that is wild. Remember, we talked about the spoiled child, a child that is wild. They don't know when to stop. So even for us, this is a symptom. Do you ever know when you have done enough, when you have bought enough clothes, when you have spent enough money to be able to put some control? That is another symptom that can tell you that there is something you need to do to put yourself together. Also, excessive use of manipulation to get others to do what you want them to do. Manipulation, you know, trying to make people, you know, do your bid, or to like you. You know, you manipulate them through, you know, using just sweet language, or just doing things for them so that you can get what you want. This is still another symptom of a child that needs to be reparented. So we continue with the symptoms, and I hope we are getting the gist of this whole series, because now this is something we can do a self-examination. And later on, we shall also see what we can do now to raise this child again. Also, extreme pessimism. You know, looking at things in a very negative way. This will not work. We cannot finish this. We will not get there in time. You know, extreme pessimism, even about your ability to do what it takes to recover from low self-esteem. You know, maybe even as I'm talking like this, maybe someone is saying, how can you overcome things that happened 40 years ago, 30 years ago? I mean, does it even matter? That kind of, you know, extreme pessimism, you know, pent up anger. You know, you lose your temper very, very easily. rage, hatred, and especially against the people in your past who have abused or neglected you. Remember, we say that this unforgiveness, it rots the bones. We cannot, progress very far when we have a lot of anger and forgiveness. It kind of also, it interferes with the quality of our life. Also, lack of clear direction, clarity of goals in your life. You find that when you want to do something, you over consult. You have talked to your auntie in Nyeri. You have gone to your grandmother in Nyandarua, your grandfather. Can I buy this piece of land? Can I do this? Lacking clear direction. At what point do you agree that this is a decision that I have made, and you use the next slogan that says, just do it? Sometimes even this over consultation, it immobilizes us. By the time you are deciding that that is what you want to do, maybe the piece of land has already been sold. The car that you are consulting about, you has already been sold. So also this lack of direction, you find it hard to make a decision. That is also another symptom of a child that needs to be raised. And remember, I said that this child that we are talking about is not someone out there. It is who we are. Because when we are getting angry, when we are fighting with our spouses over issues that others would call non-issues, it is that child. And they sabotage us. Unless we heal those wounds, we will remain with scars, yes. But remember, a scar is not a wound. A scar comes to tell you that you are in a battle, but you overcame. Remember, even Jesus has scars on his hands from his past. But that does not stop him from stretching his hands and saying, be healed, even with the scars. Meaning that we can also heal from our childhood wounds. We will carry the scars as badges of honor to say that, yes, I went through that, but I overcame. Because we say that what does not kill you can only make you stronger. So what are we saying this evening? That there are some activities that we can engage in to reaffirm that child, so that that child that is crying within us can start smiling again. We can become friends again, so that instead of them pulling us back, they will actually encourage us. Let's do it, Beatrice. Let's finish this course. Don't give up. Encouraging us because we have affirmed them and we have, assured them that the beatings, the neglect, the abandonment will not happen again, because you know what? They have a new parent, and that parent is me. All right. Don't know what has happened.
And actually, maybe as we just try and fix that, we want to continue encouraging our members to participate in engaging with our facilitator.
Yeah.
We are discussing pertinent issues, and there are questions coming. Like, we have a question on the wall that is asking about, can one have such a perfect God-centered childhood that ends up being a wound by not preparing one for the true harsh world? That's a question, and I believe even as the Dr. Resetters should be able to respond to that.
Yeah.
Members, we're inviting more questions and engagements. Whatever it is that you feel you'd want to ask, write it on the chat section, so that once we come to the very end, we shall have some time to answer and respond to these questions. So feel free to engage, feel free to write, and your questions will be responded to.
Okay, right. So what was that question again?
The member is asking, can one have such a perfect God-centered childhood that ends up being a wound by not preparing one for the true harsh world? I think the member is trying to say that you live in, a perfect world, you live in a good life as a child, and end up suffering just maybe because you are not well prepared for a harsh world or something. I hope you understand that.
Yes, yes, I do, and I want to respond to that. Yes, what we realize is that sometimes we hurt our children by loving them too much, and we find that you can actually inflict a wound on a child by overprotecting them, and that is why last time we talked about uh, the spoiled child, spoiled quote unquote. When we overprotect our children, when we do what we call helicopter parenting, where you are concerned about their every move, you fight their battles, you don't allow them to, to learn problem solving skills. I'm sure we have seen parents who fight with other parents because maybe my son has been beaten by your son, or they go to school to fight these battles for their children. And so this child grows up knowing that I don't have to do anything. If there is a problem, my mother will come. If there is a problem, my father will come. And so they grow up with what we call learned helplessness. Learned helplessness, meaning that if when they start facing the harsh realities of life, they find themselves completely unskilled, completely unprepared for the harsh world. You can imagine, maybe if it's a young man who grows up like that, where they are overprotected, they are not allowed to face the consequences sometimes of their choices. They are not allowed to fight their own battles, so they don't know how to solve any problem. And then that person becomes a husband to another person, and now this wife and the children are looking up to him to solve the problems in the house. You find that if there is running away to be done, everyone runs away, the father, the mother, and the children, and there is no one to solve the problem. So I want to say, yes, it is true. Not preparing our children for the realities of life can inflict a childhood wound, because at some point we will have to let them go and face life on their own. So it is good sometimes to allow our children to face, the consequences of their actions, to solve some of their problems, even when there are fights. Because today you protect him, then the next day it is your son who has beaten another child, and you're there, not knowing what to say or do. I hope that question is answered. Evangelist, can I continue?
Yes, now continue. In case
All
they
right.
have anything they need clarification, they'll just write.
Yes, yeah. All right. So we were looking at some of the reparenting activities that we can engage in. And what I said at the beginning is that this child within, actually, we say that trauma arrests a person at the point where it happened. It arrests or it immobilizes a person at the point where it happened. So that if the abuse happened when a child was 7, and we are talking about the extreme, I'm sure you have seen videos that pass around even on WhatsApp. A child who is subjected to so much violence until you don't want to see. And so you imagine if you follow that child 10 years down the line, what do you expect to see? How do you expect that child would try to to numb that memory? Maybe through drug abuse, through violence, or you may even find that child in jail because they have subjected someone to the same violence, and now they find themselves incarcerated. So some of the reparenting activities that we can engage in is like what we are doing now: inner child healing, looking at our wounds. What can we do about them? If there was no affirmation, if we grew up unbonded, if we grew up unappreciated, can we start doing that to ourselves? When you do something and you feel, this project, I have done it so well, even before your boss tells you, pat yourself on the back and say, well done, you have done well. Maybe this is something you never had anyone tell you. And that's why we are saying history can start anywhere, and it is never too late to do the right thing. Also, self-affirmations, like I've said, well done. Maybe no one ever told you well done. Even when you were position 1 in class, they said, hiyo sio mbaya. You know, no affirmation. Also, unconditional self-acceptance. I am the way I am, short as I am, plump as I am, dark as I am, and that is who I am. You know, unconditional self-acceptance. But we are not talking about accepting flaws that need to be corrected, because reparenting also means disciplining yourself. Are there areas in my life that I need to improve about my health, about my spiritual, health, about my hygiene, all those things. Also, indication of feelings. This is very important. Indication of feelings means expressing your feelings, because one of the wounds that we find with most children that we handle is that they say, I felt unheard, I felt unseen. No one was ever allowed in my family to speak up their feelings. If you start crying, you keep quiet. Why are you crying like a baby? No one asks you what is the matter. No one listens. No, so we are talking about one of the reparenting activity is to, gather the courage to express your feelings. If something is unsettling, talk to that person. Tell them what you have done. I don't like what you have done. I don't like what you have said to me. Help me understand why you have done that to me. Your indication of, don't bottle them up, because bottling feelings up is one of the things that causes childhood wounds. But for us to heal is this, to express those feelings. Maybe there's a lot of toxins that you need to remove from your system by, expressing your feelings. Also, anger workouts. When you're angry, how do you deal with your anger in a healthy manner? It is not by hitting someone, but we have many strategies of anger management. This is a whole presentation about anger management. We have many ways. Sometimes when you're in a heated argument, you can decide to just walk away, or maybe change the subject. If, for example, you're talking to your child and you feel, if I open this mouth again, I'm going to hit the child, change the subject so that your mind can be distracted. Also, self-forgiveness. Sometimes these childhood experiences are because of the experiences that we went through, and maybe also some of the things that we did as we were reacting to what was happening to us. And sometimes when we look back, we feel guilty, we feel shame. And one of the things that you find people doing is that everyone else forgives them, and they remain as the only person who has not forgiven themselves. So reparenting activity also calls for self-forgiveness. Another thing that we can do as a reparenting activity in this journey of trying to heal our past experiences is journal writing. I do a lot of this myself. Writing about the things that have happened to you, not recording everything, but those things that are significant. And especially when you get into a situation where you feel, the way I responded there was not good. Maybe that my child within reared her head. As you journal those experiences, then when you look back, you become self-regulating. Because sometimes you look at something you said or something you did, and you can tell, here I think I overreacted. This person did not deserve this kind of outburst. That is the help of the journal. You look back and you correct where you think you went wrong. Then another reparenting activity is letting go of the need to control. At what point do you accept that you are not the general manager of the universe? At what point do you, let other people do, work and also serve you? There are people who feel uncomfortable, sitting down and letting another serve them. Hapana, mi usinieke, mi nitajichukulia, usinilete, you want to be in control of everything. When things are going wrong, even in in a multitude of people, you feel the need to go and correct. Surely, you are not the general manager. Sometimes it helps to just, let things flow. Let someone serve you. Let someone appreciate you, Another reparenting activity is time management. Remember, we are saying when our children are playing, even when it is time for them to sleep when they are young, you'll tell them, look at the time. You are supposed to be in bed by now. And then in the morning, you tell them, you need to wake up. It's time to go to school. You teach them time management. But when you grow up in a laissez-faire environment where, where things, there are no controls, there are no rules, everything goes, then we find ourselves having a problem with time management. So reparenting also means that if I have an appointment in the morning, I will be the one to set the alarm. And if I find that I'm getting late, and I engage, by the way, I do a lot of this self-talk. I tell myself, hey, Beatrice, you are getting late. There, you might find traffic on the road. Get out, time management. So I'm reparenting this child who wants to just, waste time, Also stress reduction and relaxation work. Sometimes also taking time to relax, self-care, manage your stress. This child within needs to be taught that. Also goal setting, a big one. Where do I want to see myself in the next 1 year? And if that is where I want to see myself, what am I going to do? What are the things that I need to do for me to get there? And where will I start? Which one will I do first? Goal setting. This is also reparent. Remember, you're putting yourself in order. You're putting yourself in order so that your past is no longer in control of your present. And also maintaining a healthy, balanced lifestyle. We tell our children, no, you need to finish your vegetables, you need to eat your fruits, you need to sleep, go out and play, because you want them to grow up balanced. And so we are now doing that to ourselves as a way of reparenting, so that there is no child wailing within us. And as we go on, you find that the wounds heal, the scars remain. And now these scars, like I said, we wear them like badges of honor. I went through that, but I overcame. You will find if so many people who have gone through very, very strange experiences in their lives, but today they are doing well because they became deliberate and said, it stops with me. Going forward, I become my own parent. I become the director of my show. Also self-nurturing, physically, sometimes even hugging, this thing of what we call feeding through the skin. We say that children have skin hunger, meaning that we feed, especially young children, from when they are born, maybe up to the age of around 10, they feed through the skin, hugging, cuddling them, touching them, just feeling, they feed through the skin. But of course, there are those children who never get an opportunity to have someone hug them and feel their warmth. And sometimes you can just hug yourself, you're hugging that child within that never got that. And also letting go of shame and guilt. This you do through forgiving yourself, and also forgiving those who took you through those childhood experiences. And so what we are saying, and I believe we are finishing, is that going forward, because we shall be looking at some of the ways in which we sabotage our lives because of allowing the child within to roam free. So you find a person who would have gone very far in life, they go up to a certain point. And you see some people say, this person, she looks very gifted. Why is it that she never rises above a certain level? Self-sabotage. Maybe because of the decisions we make that are not of good quality. And as we talk about people who have gone through adverse childhood experiences, we need to also be careful because some people have gone through very painful experiences. And so as we approach them, even as we talk to people who have gone through adverse childhood experiences, we need to give them support that is non-judgmental, accepting them the way they are. That is not, like when we tell you, hiyo si kitu, ati unasema mlikuwa mnachapwa, sisi hata tulikuwa sijui as long as it is big in that person's eyes, then it is big enough to disturb them. So we need to accept people's experiences and how they meant to them. So look out to recognize and integrate their strengths, even as we help people who have gone through adverse experiences. What strengths can they use? These are what we call the anchors. What can they hold on as they go through the journey of recovery, so that even as we decide, even as a church, how we shall be helping people who come out to, maybe to talk to the pastor or the pastoral team about maybe some of their experiences, how then do we help them? It must be, a jointly formulated plan, because sometimes we might find ourselves also engaging professionals, because it is not everything that will just go through talk therapy. There are those who may need to be seen by a doctor, so that those underlying issues like the anxiety and the depression can be treated. And as we do that, there's something that we call compassionate resilience, or what we call compassion fatigue. It is possible to get tired of helping people, and especially if you're not careful to also take care of yourself. And so we need to also be careful that we don't get into compassion fatigue. So even as we help people who have gone through these experiences, we need to maintain our well-being as we care for them. We also, ensure that we don't get embroiled in or what we call enmeshed in the affairs of other people. And that way we can be healthy to help them. As we finish, I have put this slide here to prepare us for what we shall be doing next time. And I believe it is very, very important for us to identify how we sabotage our lives, how we interfere with the quality of our lives through the choices we make. And some of them have to do with the experiences that we have had in the past. So we are saying, if we don't recognize our inner children, they do what real children do when they are ignored. That is, if I ignore the child within, so they retaliate, they fight back, and they find ways to sabotage our best efforts. Our inner children, they withdraw when they are afraid. And that is why you'll find someone is annoyed with another, and so they withdraw, they don't talk to them, they don't pick their calls. They get worried, they get angry. And so sometimes we find that we get angry, we lose energy, we lose time, we lose money, we lose our creativity when this child is still alive with the wounds dripping with blood. So this child within, like I told you, that trauma arrests a person at the point where it happened. And so we remain stuck at various stages of life where we were emotionally stunted and we stopped growing up. And that's why sometimes maybe I'll be talking with my husband and I get annoyed and I start throwing tantrums and I'll be looking like a 7-year-old, meaning that there's a child within that needs to grow up. And the only person who can nurture that child is me, by asking myself, why do I act like this? Because of what happened to me. So what can I do so that when I have an engagement with my husband, there will be two grown-ups talking, not a grown-up and a 7-year-old. And some of the examples of sabotage, maybe even addictions, as we try to numb those painful experiences, compulsions, codependence, risky behavior like gambling, drugs, sex, becoming even an workaholic, even hoarding. So we are saying that when the child within is still, the wounds are still open, we sometimes engage in self-sabotage. And that is what we shall be talking about. Some of these self-sabotaging behaviors that we engage in, and they can interfere with our progress. So what we are saying as I finish, the question that I asked at the beginning, what do you think your future self would want? Is it to become a better person? Or is it to remain immobilized by your childhood experiences? And I said, for me, like Joshua said, as for me and my house, as for me, I would want to be free from this childhood experience so that I can forge on and I can tap all the gifts that God gave me without interference from my childhood experiences. I beg to stop there. And thank you so much, and may God bless all of you.
Thank you, Daktari, and the members for listening. We now want to ask if there are any questions. Of course, again, time is far gone, but we didn't want to leave without giving an opportunity to members to ask any question. Molly Muiga, this is your
Yes,
area. You have something to say?
yes, evangelist. I
Mm.
really want to appreciate Dr. for the presentation because initially maybe majority were wondering where this topic is headed. And for sure today we can see how the child within us can really mess up our lives. And we have seen people may be holding very serious offices, but maybe the child within who is traumatized sabotages their progress. And even ourselves now, we are able to look at those things that people say this is this person's weakness. Most likely, it is based on the advanced childhood experiences, and we are ready to learn how to deal with it. I really appreciate, and God bless you, Daktari, for bringing this topic so well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. I also know we have Daktari Reverend Bogwa, who is also in this space and talks about mental health and related issues. Daktari, do you have anything to comment on what we have learned today?
Thank you, Harrison. I'm so glad for this evening, even to find my colleague doing a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Daktari. This was really wonderful. I like listening from Jazz Chinyamaji and encouraging my sister. Thank you for everybody for turning up. This has been wonderful following up. I can see somebody saying they are laughing with themselves because of what they are getting out of these sessions. The Lord bless each one of us. Thank you so much.
Asante sana, Mchungaji, and also for joining us in tonight's virtual engagement. Any other person who has something to just share? I'm just looking for comments. Feedback is important even for a facilitator to get to know whether we are learning.
Yeah.
Any other person? All right. If none, Anne Gichungu is also saying thank you. Very soothing to listening to the talk. Indeed, yes. And also someone says it's very insightful. Tonight I was just laughing alone. You know, when you maybe try to imagine the things that you have been ignoring in your life and how to reparent ourselves. I think I loved the self-talk that you have to keep reminding yourself um, to manage time, you know, to do certain things. That was insightful. Asante Daktari. Samsha is also saying, I'm gaining a lot. Thank you. Members, thank you so much for your feedback. I want to invite our parish minister to conclude this session for us. We shall have one more session with Daktari next Tuesday, being our last. I would hope that we shall engage with her on any area that we feel we need more clarity. Otherwise, we are doing well. And after this, we shall start another series. So keep posted. Just to remind you that we use the same link that we shared. So the link doesn't change. Keep the link for yourselves because use the same link every other Tuesday. Again, all our virtual engagements are recorded and we post them on our YouTube channel, PCA Sukari Live. You'll see all the virtual engagements since we started. They are well recorded, and you can listen to it once again in your free time. Otherwise, God bless you so much. Over to you, our parish minister.
Thank you so much, Dr. I think it's great reading our childhood. It's a great thing. And just like someone commented, they are laughing. You just look at your past and you're saying, wow, so this could be the thing. So thank you so much. It's great inspiration. And at times bring us into self-reflection so that we are able to improve our lives. I think I like the question on where we want to go or what we want to be. I think that's my take home. Let us pray together. God, we thank you so much for giving us a gift of Dr. Betty, who's worked with us from the Sunday she was here, and now the continuous Tuesdays that she has worked with us. We thank you, Lord, that you desire that we get healed from within. And our prayer, oh God, is that as we continue on getting these great insights and getting inspired and getting challenged, that Father, our lives will be better and better. So we ask that God, you bless your servant, even as you help us grow every other day. May your name be honored. And this is our prayer of faith in Jesus' name. We can all say the grace together. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ
And the love of
and the
God,
love of God
And
and the Holy Spirit be with
Jesus,
forevermore.
forever.
Amen.
Amen.
us. Good night.
Good night.